Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, ad nastana. As always, it's a pleasure to be back with you here on Points of Light Radio and continuing on this journey of light and knowledge. In this particular segment of Points of Light Radio, we will continue our journey by shedding, shall we say, some more light, actually, on an organization called E Clampus Vitus. Now, you may recall this organization from the April 29th, 2023 segment of Points of Light Radio. Hard to believe it's actually been that long ago. But, it was wonderful. You may recall we fellowshipped with a gentleman in that particular segment from the organization. Jethro he liked to go by that name. All right. But it has been a while, as I said. So let's recap. First of all, the Ancient and Honorable Order of E Clampus Vitus, or ECV, are a fraternal organization dedicated to the preservation of the heritage of the American West, especially the history of the mother lode and gold mining in the gold mining regions of that area. It was designed as a lasting monument to the men and women of the gold rush era. The history of E Clampus Vitus, or also known there again as the Clampers, is steeped in mythology. The early history of the organization is unclear. Some historians suggest that the order originally came from the southern states before being carried to California during the gold rush. Now, the problem is early meetings of E Clampus Vitus in the California goldfields were devoted so completely, and you've heard me say this before, to drinking and all kinds of debauchery. You're right. None of the clampers was ever able to be, was never in any kind of condition, shall we say, to keep minutes or remember what happened, right, the next day. So today there are close to, and this is my guest told me this, there are close to 500,000 clampers in 42 chapters in California, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, and Colorado. It's not here in Canada, folks, right? So let's allow my guest today to shed a little more light on this organization. And that guest will be Ben Jackson. Mr. Jackson is the Vice Noble Grand Humbug of the South Chapter 1187 in Wyoming. So, what are we waiting for here? Are you still thirsty for knowledge? Are you still searching for the light? Then you just trim your lamp and follow me. Mr. Jackson, welcome to Points of Light Radio.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
You are the Vice Grand Noble Humbug of the South 1187 Chapter E Clampus Vitus in Wyoming, I believe it is.
Yeah, so Vice Noble Grand Humbug, South Pass Chapter 1867, based in Lander, Wyoming.
So why don't you tell my listeners and viewers about yourself, first of all?
Okay, so 48 years old, originally from the Northern California area of the Truckee, Lake Tahoe area kind of region, on the Sierra Nevada mountains, western slope, and been living here in Wyoming now almost 20 years. We relocated in May of 2005. I'm a general contractor and really enjoy working with my hands. Also do welding and fabrication. I have a small welding and fabrication business on the side that I like to dabble with. Been married to my wife, Tony, now for 22 years, going on our 23rd. We have 2 kids. Our son, Ben Jr., who's 24 years old, who is a Army veteran. Um, he has two children. We've been blessed with two grandchildren, and our daughter Delaney, who is 21, and she is a senior at Boise State University in Idaho, and she is studying for her degree in kinesiology.
So now, what does exactly does a Vice Grand Noble Humbug do in the Clampers, and where exactly did they get the name Humbug?
So the humbug, the vice noble grand humbug, is basically the vice president of the chapter, and the name humbug is really just um, the clampers as our nickname, is that's what we call ourselves. Um, there's a lot of absurdum that that we base ourselves in, and we we do that so that we never take ourselves too seriously. As you and I have talked in the past, there's so many of these fraternal orders out there that they get caught up in the pomp and circumstance of what they do, and they take themselves way too seriously. And one of the founding principles of E Clampus Vitus is that we never take ourselves too seriously. And so humbuggery and that term is just something that somewhere in our founding they pulled that term humbug out of the hat, so to speak, and chose that as the office of our president at the local chapter level. So, as far as the role and responsibilities of the vice humbug, um, each chapter is takes that to a little differently. I guess it's written up in their own bylaws. We don't necessarily have a very set strict of bylaws that's handed out to each chapter. Each chapter is self-governing. So our chapter is a little unique in that the vice humbug is the chairman of the dedication committee. So our excuse me, our main purpose is the preservation of sites of historical significance pertaining to the mother lode era, of mining, and the gold rush era, and the westward expansion of the United States. So we're constantly looking for sites of historical significance pertaining to that. And so in our chapter, what the Vice Noble Grand Humbug does is he is constantly looking for those sites within the state of Wyoming, and reaching out to, whether it be state agencies, county agencies, or federal agencies that are governing within the state, um, and seeking permission, seeking cooperation, um, and also doing research as to what is going on with these sites, and how do we um, get that permission to be able to go in and dedicate these sites, put a plaque at this site, and then work out the logistics, because we also have our initiations that coincide with the dedications. So, separate and aside from our normal day-to-day operations, where the vice humbug is assisting the humbug, the actual president of the chapter, in whatever he may need assistance with, those are other roles and responsibilities within our chapter specifically that the vice humbug would have um, on his plate, so to speak.
Now, do the Clampers have a degree system? And if so, what are the names for them?
No, no, there is no degree system within ECV. Everybody is what they call an officer of equal indignity. Once you're initiated into the chapter or into the order, so to speak, there is a probationary period, but once you're initiated, you are a brother, and everybody, like I said, That's one of the sayings within the order, and it's a fundamental principle is that everybody is an officer of equal dignity.
Now, I believe you told me you chartered a chapter, didn't you?
Yeah, so our chapter here in Wyoming, we're one of the newest chapters within the fraternal order, and we got our chapter charter in 2022. So we're relatively young as far as the whole order goes, but we started our journey towards chapter status back in, I believe it was 2015. So it's generally by the time that you start the process, you start as a historical society, and then you move to outpost, and then you become a an actual chapter. You get your charter. So that process can take anywhere from, I think, 7 or 8 to a little over 10 to 11 years. And I think we did it in 8. So relatively quick as far as the timeline goes, uh, comparatively to other chapters. But we worked really hard and we were very successful. And the governing body of the whole entirety of E Clampus Vitus, which is Grand Council, saw fit to give us our chapter status, our actual charter in 2022, and it's something we were very proud of.
But what all was involved in it? Did you have to apply? Were there a series of meetings? What was it?
There is an application process that you have to go through. You have to, and then you have to seek a sponsoring chapter, which we were very fortunate to have Alpaca chapter number 100 out of Colorado that sponsored us, and we're very fortunate and very appreciative of our brothers down there to the south to sponsor us, and they worked hand in hand with us over that period of years to ensure that not only were we successful in our bid for our chapter status, but that we also followed all of the rules of Grand Council during our outpost status, and that we found the actual sites, like I was talking about, of historical significance that met the criteria and the guidelines of Grand Council to dedicate, because you do have to meet those guidelines. You know, the Grand Council is very precise and very strict on what they want done from their chapters, and especially when you're going to bring a new chapter into a state for the first time. I mean, that's a big deal. You know, we are the first and only chapter in the state of Wyoming, and so to dip our toe into the waters of a new state, so to speak, like I said, it's a pretty big deal, and so they wanted to make sure that all the T's were crossed and all the I's were dotted, and Alpaca was very gracious in helping to make sure that we did that appropriately. So,
What do you feel it's done for you, though, in the Clampus Vitus?
um, you know, the big thing for me is, and I think that we talked about this on the phone last week, is legacy. And we talked about some of the other fraternal orders and stuff that are out there, but for my grandchildren's grandchildren to be able to walk up to a building or go to a site and put their hands on a plaque that I helped place somewhere and say, my great great grandfather, or whatever the case may be, or somebody else's great great grandfather, they can say, put this plaque here 100 years ago or 150 years ago. That is very very special, and that is very very unique to our order. I don't know of very many, if any, other orders that are out there that can lay that same claim right now. And so to me, that's very rewarding and very satisfying on a personal level. Um, and so when I say that, that E Clampus Vitus and that we strive to preserve yesterday's America for tomorrow's Americans. I mean, that is a very, very real statement. And I take that very, very seriously and very personally. So, we are committed to finding these sites and doing our best to preserving them for the public so that they can, at the very minimum, they'll be able to go there and read these stories about these people and know what happened there and why this site is so important for, years and years to come.
Well, Mr. Jackson, on that note, I appreciate your time today and all the best to you and your chapter.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. I really appreciate, or Stan, I really appreciate your time as well. And I wish you all the best with your program in the well and or in the future and future interviews.
Thank you, sir. That was Ben Jackson, brothers and sisters. Wasn't it wonderful revisiting E Clampus Vitus? I stand corrected. It's not E Clampus Vitus, it's E Clampus Vitus. That's another observation I made. But it was great having them back on here. I love swinging back to these organizations, especially ones like this that are kind of fun, right? But still get some work done there and some serious work done as well. And some observations I made during the course of this interview is that there are even more members than I thought. Last time I said there's more chapters than I thought. There's even more members than I thought. Light Radio, my Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio. You can see the link to my Spotify channel as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, it's been a pleasure revisiting this organization and fellowshipping with you today. Until we meet again, just step into the light.